right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at it. His fast facts. I don't know how detailed he's going to get into what happened in the fight, but we'll take a look. So let's see.
And the son of Rampage Jackson is in some legal hot water, some serious legal trouble after a brawl that went down with a Psycho Stu the other day. And this.
And yes, GBP, I believe you are correct that that the victim in this scenario was a veteran. Yes, I believe you are correct.
Absolutely is going to have some serious legal repercussions. We're talking about that today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. This is the Fast Facts version, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. If you like this, make sure you like the video.
And he's on location, too.
On this below. And of course, I'm a little bit on mini vacation here, so it's not my home studio, but we're going to really get into this. And of course, I've got a PowerPoint for you. So let's jump right into that on the Raja Jackson attack. Now, many of you may know Raja Jackson is the son of course, Rampage Jackson. You have them on the left, Rampage, you got his daughter there, and then you got Raja right there on the right. And this went down just this week, and he is now being investigated by the LAPD that are looking into this beating of an unconscious opponent. I am not going to play this video because YouTube has been coming down really hard on people that have been showing this image.
Oh, really? Okay. So, since I'm not going to play the video, since after this, I won't play the video either because I don't want the video to get new. Basically what happened is, this is Raj right here. This is the wrestler that's being blurred out and what happened is they were in a wrestling match and Raja Jackson basically like body slammed him. He grabbed him, body slammed him onto the mat, and then was full contact punching him in the face. Like you said, Atanashi, something like 15 to 20 times. While the man was laying unconscious on the mat. He literally was just like, he almost killed him. And he just, like, after the guy was not, he body slams him, gets on top of him in a straddle, and just basically just starts punching him over and over and over again in the face. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. It was fucking brutal as hell. And he didn't stop until another wrestler came in and managed to yank him off of him. And the result is this man was in critical condition, was in the hospital. I believe he's awake now. I believe he has regained consciousness, but he was, I think, in critical condition in the hospital after these events. And the reasoning that I've heard, I don't know if Andrew's going to go into this or not. The reasoning why Raja did this is in a pre-match thing. Is he still in critical? Okay, so he might still be in critical, but he is awake, but he's in really bad fucking shape. The reasoning is before the match, they were doing like a pre-match footage or something, and the wrestler, for the life of me, I can't recall his name, did a bit where he basically took a prop like cup or something and smacked it. Yeah, it was like a promo thing. He smacked a prop cup or something into Raja's head as part of the promo. Raj took it personally and decided to try and kill him in the ring. His name was Psycho Steve? Okay, so Psycho Steve hit Raja in the head with a prop. But it was a drink can prop, but God, that's the thing. It was a prop and it was a bit. He thought Raj was another wrestler? Well, he got the ring with him. I mean, it's just, and okay, but he apologized several times. Okay, there we go. So I'm not totally up to it. I know the fight here. I know the fighter. So Zed, you're saying that he apologized to him profusely, and Raj even said it's okay, and then he got in the ring. So he apologized, they get in the ring, and then he proceeds to try and kill him. Okay, so there was misunderstanding prior to the match. The wrestler apologized profusely beforehand. Oh, and he wasn't even supposed to be in the ring. Okay, see, I'm learning more about this. I hadn't looked too much into it, so I'm learning more about this now. So he wasn't even supposed to be in the ring. There was an incident beforehand. The wrestler apologized profusely. Raj says it's okay, and then during the match, he gets in and basically tries to kill him. Literally tries to kill him. There we go.
That's censored is kind of enough, but I can just describe you to the fact that the opponent, Mr. Psycho Stu, was absolutely knocked out. He was absolutely flat. He was not responding, and it had to be to the point where people were pulling him off, had to pull Raja off because he was beating this unconscious man and continued to do it for an uncomfortable amount of time. Watching the video was very uncomfortable. I watched the whole thing, and there have been many experts that have commented on this and given commentary. I am not an expert in.
Yeah, Eminency, Raja did have a kick. I think he got banned off of Kick after this. Like, after this happened and he left the arena, I thought I heard something like he was on stream after the arena and Kick banned him midstream because of what he did. Yeah, I did hear about that.
Neither MMA nor wrestling nor fighting in general, but, you know, I am a person who knows about the law.
So one of the wrestlers invited him for a collab. Whoa, shit. Chat's moving too fast. Invited him for a collab to get eyes on both the company and help boost Raj's image. Stu was not told of this and thought it was a promo with the cams being there and hit him with a can. The producer then said, "We will let you work a receipt, i.e. payback." And he was meant to jump in the ring, slam him, and hit him just 1 or 2 times. Okay, thank you, Echo.
And when you see somebody who is unconscious, one big thing that pops out is whatever consent they would have had for the fight is gone now. Most people do not consent to continue to be beaten while they were unconscious.
Not Draco, I'll get to that.
Even within fights, even within rings, even within MMA or any other form of sanctioned fighting, that at a certain point, this is too far, and there is no legal protection. There is no waiver. There's no really thing that's going to get you out of this per se. Now we're going to talk about some defenses for Raja, what he might bring up that might minimize things, but there is no kind of complete waiver or some kind of complete loss of liability or protection from liability that you would have through some sort of contract. So let's continue here. We have a statement from his dad, from Rampage, and I actually think this was very thoughtful and very balanced.
Okay.
And I wanted to read this because I thought it was actually very thoughtful, and you know, coming from somebody who's both a fighter and a dad, I think this was a good statement. So saying, "I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raja. I've been confirmed that the wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu, is awake and stable. Now, as an update, which I'll have on the next page, he is still in critical condition. Raja was unexpectedly hit in the side of the head by him moments before the match. Raja was told that he could get his payback, quote unquote, in the ring. I thought it was part of the show. It was a."
I'm not sure about the moments before the ring because I saw the video footage of when Raja got hit in the side of the head with that can, and that looked like it was in an exterior setting, not inside the arena. So the moments before the match doesn't sound right. I don't know how much earlier, but the fact that the event happened outside. So yeah, it was hours before. So yeah, this is not so Rampage's statement here is bullshit. That it happened moments before his match.
So that was a fucking lie.
It was actually like what you guys are saying, probably hours, like at least an hour or a couple hours before. So, yeah, that's bullshit. That it happened moments before. So Rampage Jackson is lying, or at least at the minimum unintentionally lying about the events in question about this.
Bad judgment and work that went wrong. Raja is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business involved in an event like this. I don't condone my son's actions at all. He suffered from a concussion from sparring days ago. Now that's a relevant point that's going to come from the defense, and had no business doing anything remotely close to physical contact. As a father, I'm deeply concerned with his health and the well-being of Mr. Smith. That being said, I'm very upset that any of this happened, but my main concern now is Mr. Smith will make a speedy recovery, and I apologize on his behalf and a Kick for the situation. So now, of course, some people will debate these facts, and I'm not here to debate the facts or, you know, whether or not what happened before the ring and the encounter before the ring. What I'm looking at is what video we saw during the encounter, and also the current condition, which if you look at this, Psycho Stu is in currently stable but in critical care after the
And Eminency, I don't dispute that whatsoever. Without a doubt, his father was trying to do damage control. That is beyond obvious. I fully understand that he's trying to do damage control. And that's why I said either, like, his father lied, possibly unintentionally. Maybe he was given an incorrect timeline of the events in question. So at the minimum, it was unintentionally lying. But he was grossly incorrect on the timeline. Intentional or unintentional. We can debate, there can be debate on that, but he was wrong.
Disturbing attack he suffered on Roger Jackson on August 23rd, according to his brother. The family asked supporters to keep the wrestler, whose real name is Stuart Smith, in their prayers as they're focused on his recovery. So he is not dead. That's a relevant fact legally, right? Because obviously if this was a fatality, then there would be something else.
It's the point where Raj is talking to the kick chat before getting in the ring. The chat is amping Raj's rage to where he's talking about being disrespected and not being a bitch and how he will keep hitting Psycho until he's pulled off. Andrew may talk about that. I have a feeling that may be something Andrew discusses as a factor in what's going on.
On the line, there'd be some very, very serious charges on the line, which we'll get into right now. So obviously you have attempted murder. That's something that people have been throwing around. That's in all the clickbait, thumbnails, etc. Now, whether or not this is an attempted murder is going to be based on intent. Intent. How it reads in the state is intended to cause death as opposed to serious harm, and their actions were directed towards achieving that intent but ultimately ineffective in completing it, meaning
is he going to get charged for, like, God forbid what's his name again, Stu, God forbid Stu pass away, God forbid. It's not going to be murder. He won't be charged with murder. He will very likely, if anything, I would wager it would be manslaughter. I have a suspicion that they might go with manslaughter. So it's no, not aggravated assault, Nubis. Like, okay, let me rephrase. He's going to be charged. Okay? He is going to be charged. The question is with what, and based on what happens with the other half, with the other party. If he lives, if he lives, we could be looking at aggravated assault, or even attempted manslaughter. I think the attempted manslaughter might be a stretch. Well, that's why I said attempted, Hackle. I'd say it's probably going to be, I'd say if he lives, God willing, if the man lives, it's going to be aggravated assault plus additional charges. Maybe aggravated reckless behavior, he's going to be the recipient of several felonies regardless. The only question is, which ones? That's the only question. Which felonies? Is it going to be felonies for inflicting grievous bodily harm and maybe attempted manslaughter? Or is it going to be actual manslaughter because the man unfortunately loses his life? I don't know if they're going to try and push attempted murder. That's the thing. With the courts nowadays, I don't foresee them trying to push attempted murder. I could foresee them pushing the ag assault, aggravated reckless endangerment, etc., etc. I don't see them being able to make the case for attempted murder. I don't. As much as we would love to, like, we have to look at this from a logical perspective. As much as we would love for him to be charged with attempted murder if the man survives, logically speaking, they're not going to be able to make a case for it. Especially when it comes to because attempted murder would require a state of mind that he intended to take the man's life. That is where you need the mens rea for murder, is you need a deliberate attempt to take the man's life. And they're not going to be able to make a case for that. They're going to be able to make the case for wanting to inflict grievous bodily harm, in which case you get the assault, you get the aggravated assault or aggravated battery, depending on what the state law is, and aggravated reckless conduct, and so on and so forth. You're not going to get attempted murder. And honestly, even if he does ultimately pass away, I still don't think you're going to be able to get murder charges on him because again, you need to look at the mens rea, the mental state, and you're not going to be able. The courts are not. The prosecuting attorney is not probably going to be able to make a legitimate case for for murder, in terms of his mental state, because you're going to have you're going to have instances showing that it's
This
the
was
mental state's not there.
So tickle fight.
Haha, Gledby. It's especially when the evidence gets introduced of the chat gassing him up. At the most, you're probably going to get is manslaughter. That's my suspicion. You're gonna get manslaughter combined with aggravated reckless endangerment. You're not going to get murder. It's not going to happen. People are going to say he should be charged with murder by the definitions of the law. He's not going to get it. They're not going to charge them if they have to go that route.
In the state is intended to cause death as opposed to serious harm, and their actions were directed towards achieving that intent, but ultimately ineffective in completing it, meaning they tried to get rid of this person, tried to end them, and only because of whatever else happened did that not happen. So it has to be specific intent of death, not of serious bodily harm. So if you just intend to mess somebody up, to hurt them a lot, that is actually not enough. That would actually not be enough under the relevant statute. Now, it can be first-degree murder, which is premeditated, or second-degree murder, which is a little bit closer to manslaughter. For those that are familiar with the statutes, we're going to talk about manslaughter next. But in this case, the specific intent is the biggest thing that is going to be the hurdle for prosecutors if they wanted to go this route. Next is manslaughter, and manslaughter is the unlawful killing of another without malice. It does not require malicious intent. And this can either be a sudden fight or a heat of passion in the case of voluntary manslaughter, or involuntary manslaughter, which occurs when committing another felony. The problem with manslaughter is there's no attempted manslaughter. So the fact that he's not dead, right, that there isn't a killing here, right, kind of negates this one. So,
well, okay, yeah, it wouldn't be attempted manslaughter if he, God willing, survives. It would be the aggravated assault, aggravated battery, plus other plus other felony charges stacked on top of it. So he's going to have multiple felonies if going on the assumption that the man survives. And he will have so if he doesn't survive, you're going to get you'll probably get a singular manslaughter charge. If he survives, you're going to have multiple felonies working in conjunction with inflicting great bodily harm. So that's what you'll be looking at.
While a lot of people have been throwing around the word manslaughter, it really won't work as an attempted manslaughter. There's attempted murder, and then there's other things, which we're going to get into, but there's not attempted manslaughter. So that one is probably not going to be the thing here. Battery, definitely something that everybody can consider. And if you consider murder at the top end and battery at the low end, battery is one that, as you're going to see here, it looks a lot more possible. So a battery is essentially when a defendant, in this case Raja, willfully and unlawfully touched another in a harmful or offensive manner and was not justified. So a lot of people confuse assault and battery. Assault is the threat of harm, and there has to be a fear, right, that's accompanied.
Yes, this is very common. That people will say charge him with assault. They don't actually know what assault is. If there's ever a question, like assault rolls off the tongue easier. I think that's why they do it. So when people say he assaulted me, charge him with assault because he assaulted me, i.e. hit me or struck me, They say assault because it just sounds aggressive. Yes, they think assault is physical. Assault is not physical. Is a very common misconception. As you can see here, it's placing a person it's when a person is placed in a state of a threat of harm, or where they feel like they are at risk of receiving a battery. That is what assault is. And unfortunately, they can blame TV for this. Because unfortunately, on TV cop shows, when a fight happens, the TV cops say, we're charging you with assault. And that's not actually what the charge is. The charge is actually battery. Yeah, TV basically always calls any physical attack, TV always calls it assault, which is incorrect. And the reason being is because assault actually sounds aggressive. Assault sounds like you were struck. Battery doesn't have as an aggressive sound to it. And so people don't realize that battery is the actual act of being struck. Assault is being placed in a state of feeling threatened that you will be struck, or you place in a state where you feel like you might receive a battery.
That threat, and battery is the completed act. So battery is you've not just threatened somebody, but you've gone and done the thing. You've actually gone and touched the person, you've harmed the person. So harmful or offensive manner means you physically harmed somebody, or it was done in an angry, rude, or disrespectful way that the victim found offensive. Well, this is, of course, beyond angry and rude or disrespectful. I mean, you're unconscious, you're being beaten while you're unconscious. Obviously, that is physically harmful, right? And there's no justification. So the justifications in the relevant statute are usually self-defense, defense of others, or disciplining a child. That's not what we had here. So battery.
Which, side tangent, I know you're shocked. For a while, and this was probably back, I think, mid-aughts. I think it might have been happening during the mid-aughts. There was this big thing where parents were getting arrested for physically disciplining their child with, say, like a smack on the back of the head or spanking their children. And people were reporting them to the police for doing that mild physical correction of a child misbehaving. And they were getting the police called on them, and they were actually being arrested. And yeah, this was a real thing. Again, I think it was happening in like the late aughts, like late 2000s. It didn't last long because very quickly parents were saying, what the fuck is going on here? You can't, the court should have no right to prevent me from discipline, from basic discipline of my child with just like spanking them or something because they are misbehaving. And so it didn't last too long. Like, I'm talking about, I know it started in the late 90s, but I'm talking about its prevalence. It was most prevalent in like news cycles, and you were actually hearing about it in news cycles about parents getting arrested for spanking their children about the mid to late 2000s when it really came to a head. And then it's the parents basically were saying, what the fuck, we are disciplining our children for seriously misbehaving. The courts have no right to tell us that we cannot discipline our children if it's not being like egregious, like the children are being beaten. We're not talking about like beating your child. We're talking about spanking the child. And so and then I think there may have actually been court cases that actually determined that spanking the child is not considered a battery, that normal, normal physical discipline, such as a spanking of a child, is not considered battery, and that was addressed in the courts.
Not looking good for Raja. Now, there are some defenses. There's mutual combat, which is a limited defense, not a total defense. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it is a limited defense against assault or battery, but only in the specific circumstance where both parties clearly and willingly participated without the intent to cause serious injury. So there's a lot of problems there. The willfulness, the consent. obviously there's not a consent to be beaten unconscious. So that's kind of out of the picture. And beyond that, the intent to cause serious injury, it looks like from what we see, there's an intent to cause serious injury. It did not look like there was an intent to just, have the fight and step back under the rules, right? And even if this did apply, which it likely doesn't, it's not a full defense. It's incomplete defense. It doesn't fully protect from criminal or civil liability. It just might mitigate that. And serious injuries, like we have here, critical condition in the hospital, are typically still illegal, even in mutual combat. And combat often, if it goes beyond that consent, the consent of the original fight, it's out. And that's what I think we see here. Now, what the concussion might come up with and might come up as a defense is diminished actuality. This is actually changed from the diminished capacity defense. Some people are aware of that one. But what this means is the defendant, in this case Raja, did not have the necessary specific intent due to a mental disease, defect, or disorder. So what Rampage argued, and I don't know whether he knew he was making a legal argument or not, but that fact from Rampage's message was very relevant because a concussion has been proven in other cases to form the basis for diminished actuality if it prevented them from having a specific intent. So if it hurt their brain in a way that they couldn't think and form that intent, well, that could prevent something like, for example, an attempted murder. You can't prove attempted murder if you have no specific intent, so that would negate that. Might not negate.
I would hazard a guess that any attempt of a defense of diminished actuality will probably get blown out of the water once his stream is introduced into evidence. Because the minute his stream is introduced into evidence and his chat starts gassing him up and he starts getting pissed off and starts saying, I'm no bitch or anything like that, because with a concussion, there's going to be telltale signs. Usually, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering my medical sciences correctly, a concussion signs of concussion would indicate equilibrium issues, maybe some slurred speech. There would be some physical signs to indicate that the concussion would have been a factor there. My guess is I haven't seen the video footage of him getting gassed up by his chat. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say there probably aren't those those physical signs indicating that he was experiencing the effects of a concussion. That would be my guess. Don't know. It would be hard to get unequal pupil dilation from a kick video, I'm guessing, TBK, unless he front faces the camera and you get good look at his pupils. Chances are you're not even going to be able to determine pupil dilation and equilibrium on that. But yeah, the kick video is going to be introduced in the chat or introduced in the evidence. I have zero doubt about that. And it's going to show them the chat gassing him up and him gearing himself up to get in there and fight. Yeah, but Rick Trucker, he wasn't in the fight. Gotta remember, this was like pro wrestling. This was basically like this was kind of like, as I understand it, more like a WWE style wrestling where you're not doing physical contact, like legit physical contact like an MMA fight. This was like essentially performative, just like the WWE, and not physical full contact. So they're not and that's even before the fact that he wasn't supposed to be involved in the fight. That they said okay, you're gonna be able to get it back. They don't do it. It's not like a boxing match or an MMA fight where they actually get an examination prior to the fight. It is more relaxed because it's not a legit fight. It is performative. So you're not going to get medical exams right before the fight like you would in, say, boxing or MMA.
A battery, right? So that's an issue for battery, but it might negate him from attempted murder. This would require an expert analysis, expert testimonies. You have to get a lot of people backing this up and saying this actually happened, but it is indeed possible. The other thing people aren't talking about right now, everyone's focused on the civil, but there's everyone's focused on the criminal and they're forgetting the civil. the tort side.
Oh, yeah.
There is massive liability on the civil
Oh,
side.
yeah.
Not criminal, civil. So criminal, we're going to probably have something going down there. That's being investigated. LAPD are looking into that. But we've got over here civil, and that's what people are really quiet on because there's massive monetary damages here for either battery or intentional infliction of emotional distress. And battery under civil law is a little bit different. It's intentionally causing an unconsented, harmful, or offensive contact, which a reasonable person would find offensive without consent. I think that's a slam dunk. That's an absolute slam dunk from a civil liability standpoint. A reasonable person looking at that can just know that that went beyond what was consented to, that was not reasonable, that was not, something that you can look at and as a human feel like, yeah, this is normal, right? So battery, slam dunk. Intentional infliction of emotional distress is extreme and outrageous conduct by the defendant that was intended or recklessly disregardful of causing severe emotional distress to the victim.
Yeah, I'd say he's got this in spades because I would not be surprised if this poor guy has PTSD after this one. Like, he's not, I don't see him wrestling ever again. He may not even be physically capable of wrestling ever again. Not to mention, emotionally, he's probably like, I'm fucking out. I'm not going to, he probably mentally will not be able to step foot into the ring ever again. He's good. What do you mean he already did? What are you talking about, Hunter? The man is still in the hospital. No. Yeah, but the PT, okay. Oh, that's what you meant, Hunter. Okay, yeah. No, I fully understand. Yeah, he's a veteran with PTSD. This is going to be a whole different set of PTSD. Like, he will already have PTSD from his time in the service, and now he's going to be dealing with PTSD from this attack. And that PTSD will be probably localized towards, wrestling or anything having to do with wrestling. So it's like, I mean, this is going to sound weird, but it's going to be like two different aspects of PTSD. He's going to have the wartime PTSD from his time in the military, and then he's also going to have PTSD from from wrestling too. So it's basically, was that compounded PTSD, Hunter? CPTSD? Is the C for compounded? Then yes, that would be correct. And I'm thinking he's not only going to have a civil case against Raja too. I'm thinking he's going to have a case against the wrestling agency also for allowing Raja into the ring. Because they told Raja, you're going to be able to get him back in the ring. My guess is he's going to have a lawsuit against them also. I don't know if Andrew's, he's only got a few seconds left. He's not going to talk about that. My guess is that he's already going to have a case against them. With Kick, possibly Cody. I will say he possibly may have a case against Kick. Although, realistically speaking, I don't think he'll have a case against Kick because Kick is not responsible for his actions. You have the chat because if a platform was responsible for a chat gassing up someone to do something, then Twitch would have been sued a long time ago, Kick would have been sued a long time ago, and various other social medias would have been sued a long time ago because of the shit that has taken place with Johnny and with Jack. Because they both have had instances where they committed crimes against another individual and they were gassed up by their chats. So I'm guessing that chances are Kick probably will not be sued because it's not like Kick gassed him up. It was Raja's own community. So good chance. Now, the wrestling agency, sure. The wrestling agency, I could see them being sued because they allowed Raja to get in a ring when he was all gassed up like that and everything. So I could see the wrestling agency being sued. Kick, no, I honestly don't see it.
So this one, I think most people would call it extreme and outrageous. So
Kick
that's
didn't
very
do anything.
possible. And the emotional
sorry.
distress, I mean, you're putting critical condition. So I think that's something that might be relatively easy to prove, especially even compared to the criminal side. I wonder what you guys think. Do you think he's going to be held liable in a criminal court, in civil court? Do you think there'll be massive damages, a settlement? What do you guys think in the comments below? I will catch you on the next one.
Unfortunately, what I also see happening here is while I do not think Kick is going to get sued for this, unfortunately, I do think Kick is going to take a black eye on this one. They are, because this is the second time in like a week and a half that someone has either suffered great bodily harm or died during one of their streams. And while I do not in any way think that Kick is responsible, I do think socially speaking, Kick is going to take a black eye on this. Unfortunately. Because both of these incidents happened on Kick, and I do think the result may end up being in heightened moderation. I do feel like, I mean, yes, Kick banned him immediately. They banned the accounts of the people that were involved in that one guy dying on stream. They did like do an immediate ban on those. But you're gonna hear people talking about the kind of content that's happening on Kick, and it's going to be a social black eye for them. And I do think we may see Kick start to maybe adjust their TOS. There's gonna start to be more things in Kick's TOS that streamers will not be allowed to do. So I do think I foresee we are going to be seeing changes to how Kick operates after these two incidents happening so closely together. We are going to say it's not going to affect content like my streams, but there are some streamers, particularly that do like the lives, like the IRL streamers. You're gonna see more stringent TOS come into play, I say. That's my suspicion. We'll probably hear about it in the not too distant future, but we are gonna be seeing changes to Kick's TOS in the near future, I'd say. Yeah. Moteki, yeah, Kick is still something. Kick is still something in its bit of a Wild West phase of streaming. They're trying to make improvements to the platform. It's just they have not had such a large part of the market share with so many big streamers coming to the platform, and so they're, this sounds very, given the situation, this sounds very childlike to say it, but Kick is going through growing pains when it comes to growing as a streaming platform. They have had a monumental surge of growth over the last few months, and I think they're trying to figure out how to adapt to it. They're trying to figure out how to adjust how they operate to deal with it, essentially. And I do think they'll get it worked out. I do think that they will get it worked out. They just, they've got to figure things out. That's it. Will a war god? I certainly hope not. I think, here's the thing. Okay, war god, here's the thing. Kick can become Twitch in terms of the TOS, because the issue that has been with Twitch is not necessarily its TOS. It's how Twitch is enforcing its TOS. That has been the crux of the issues, is not so much with Twitch's TOS, but their enforcement of it. Their enforcement of their TOS has been ungodly lopsided. I.e., they protect the fuck out of a very tiny bubble of individuals, and they bitch slap the fuck out of everyone else. So that's where the issue with Twitch's TOS is their absolutely batshit crazy bias in its enforcement. There's the difference. So,